Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. I'm Marcus Carlson. Today we're turning our attention to the Eurozone and to one of its most important pillars, and that's France. The economic climate here in Europe has taken a turn for the worse, and French growth in the second quarter of this year largely stagnated. It's with that backdrop that the French government is unveiling fresh measures to save billions of euros and to cut down on its own deficit. To talk about these issues, I'm joined now here by Jean-Paul Betbez. He's chief economist at the major French bank Crédit Agricole. Welcome, Monsieur Betbez.
Welcome.
First, how would you characterize the French economy at this stage? Is it in a healthy stage or in a not so healthy stage?
So. I mean that we were stuck by a big crisis, of course, and we are beginning to recover. The story is that companies really did react to this very, very adeptly, very elegantly, and very fiercely. And SMEs, for example, I would say are in a rather good shape because they reacted, cut inventories, cut jobs, cut investment. And so they say less indebtedness, be careful, and more or liquidity and more treasury. So they are there for 1 year or 1 year and a half waiting for something better. But of course, they cannot wait, for years and years. So in this situation, they are not as fragile that they used to be 1 year ago. They are in a better shape.
So the companies are doing all right at this stage. But what about the government? It still has a massive budget deficit.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's an old story. I mean, 33 or 34 years that we are there, living beyond our means, I would say. And now it is too much. At the very beginning, debt is nice. You like it, you take it easy, and afterwards you get used to it. And when you really get used to it, you say, people, it's too much. Okay, and this is exactly the situation. And what happened is that it not merely happens to French to the French economy. It happens to all the European economies. It happened to the States, and everyone does understand that in our big countries we lived too much on debt, and now we have to adjust.
But how does the French government then wean itself off the debt drug? What could it do in the months to come, in your opinion? What does it need to do?
It's compulsory. B, you have to explain. C, it's not right on left. It's not a political issue. It's something, in my mind, deeply rooted in the fact that we do not understand exactly how is it possible to have a good and a stable growth. And to have this, there is a simple issue. You have to export. Okay, and if you import, this is the proof that you have something fishy in your situation. And really, now we have a deficit on the external trade of something 60 billion a year, 5 billion a month. Okay, and this is too much. Okay, and this we have to fix it, and this is the issue. And my understanding is that the weakening of our activity, of our strengths in the economy, has a consequence is that we do not have enough growth. Due to the fact that we do not have enough growth, we have much more deficit as a consequence of it. And of course, you have to adjust, and we have to adjust the budget deficit, but never forget growth, okay? Because growth is the solution, okay? A diet, yes, growth, even more.
But how do you get that growth?
Growth comes from the companies. Okay, this is not something new. It comes from investment, comes from competitive advantage, and this kind of competitive advantage comes really from a discussion within the company. Okay, we just say these are the targets of the company. These are the things we have to do, and what is really problematic in our companies in France is that we said, well, we did some wrong things. what did we do since something like 10 or 12 years? We have an expansion of wages beyond productivity. So above productivity, okay? And the true element is that you have, and we must have for years and years and years from now, a situation in which we will have to moderate wages.
So basically wages are going to have to come down, but
to moderate.
That means that ordinary French people are going to be paying. Well, and that's very politically sensitive, to say the least.
It is politically sensitive, but you have an ample choice. You go on like this, okay, and you tell me what will happen within 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, or 2 years. Because I know that there will be a situation in which you will be really in deep trouble. Now, you have an alert, you have a waking call, you say, a wake-up call, say, please do something. Okay? It's not, the situation is not dramatic, it has to be fixed.
So you're saying that the French government needs to explain to voters at this stage it's better to have a little bit of pain now as opposed to a lot of pain later on?
Yes, it's always the same story in economy. Okay?
And that's not happening at the moment.
No.
The government is not making that case.
And the government and the companies. And I think that we have, to fix the issue, to alleviate the pain on one side, which is the budget, but as well, more growth. And more growth will come from companies and from more discussion within the companies, between unions and the owners. And this was the recipe used in Germany. 12 years ago, they were in a dramatic situation, and they said, what are we doing? Are we supposed to go on? If we go on like this, we're dead. Okay, so they had a discussion within the companies saying we cannot go on like this. And I think that adapted to the French situation and the French mentality, organization, I think that there must be a sort of burden sharing. A part of the activity and a part of adjustment has to be done within the public sector and within the public entities, and something has to be done as well on a private base within the companies.
I want to switch tack a little bit. What do you think of this expression, double dip recession? Are we heading for a double dip recession in France? Will we see another downturn?
No, the question is, and there is a mounting anxiety, I would say, in the US. Because the US, we had the idea that the US were out of the woods, I would say, okay? We had the idea that they would have 3% or 2 points or something like that. And now we discover that really they do not have growth. And in the US, they are not, as we are in Europe, they are not used to something that would be +1, okay? They know +3 or they know -1. But +1, they don't know. So when you say you are embarked of +1, they say, I cannot make it. Okay, and this was the element of readjustment, reassessment of growth in the U.S. Some 2 or 3 months ago. Plus, the difficulty they have to fix, the debt ceiling and all this. So the question from the Doubledip, everything coming from the Doubledip is coming, of course, from the U.S. And of course, if you have some recession in the U.S., you can understand that there will be consequences in Europe.
But you're not saying that in France and in the Eurozone there won't be another recession?
No.
Why not?
Provided the fact that in the US they fix it, provided the fact that in the US they manage to have some growth, we are not embarked in Europe, in the big countries in Europe, to go to recession. But of course, growth will be very tepid. Okay, what are, our forecast would be 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, something like that. Okay, it's not a big story.
But that's just something that we're going to have to get used to, that tepid
we
growth that
we are
you
used to
described
this. We are used to this. That means, of course, that we have massive unemployment. I don't think it is. I do not say to you that it is fine and nice. But in a sense, it's a long process of adjustment, and we have to understand that we cannot invent a solution to get out of this crisis, saying inflation would come. No. We can depreciate the euro. No. Countries leaving the eurozone. No. We have to adjust within the eurozone, but it will take time.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I still want to ask you about Spain and about Italy. There's a lot of concerns about those two economies in particular at this stage. What's your sentiment on those two countries?
Well, first, as far as Spain is concerned, they are embarked to sign the Règle d'Or, the adjustment on long-term...
Enshrining budget balance, that principle in the Constitution.
They said they would do it. My understanding is that in Italy, they are embarked in the same kind of adjustment. But I understand that if you are in Spain, if you are in Italy, everyone has to do his own work. But we have to circulate on this and to do it on a European base. Because everyone has to adjust, but globally speaking, we have to see what are the consequences. Because if you adjust too much, I will suffer as well. So we have to organize a sort of a common adjustment, and not merely some things that would be Spain, Italy, France, Greece, and the like, and Germany. It is very important that we embark on something that will be more commonly shared as a strategy to get out of this.
And striking that balance between growth and austerity on both sides.
Austerity is when you miss rigor. Okay, when you are not scrupulous enough, when you are not precise enough, you have austerity.
All right. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Jean-Paul Betbez from Crédit Agricole, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us.
My pleasure.
And with that, we're going to wrap up the program. Thanks for watching.